Shalom everyone. We started Masechet Sotah. Masechet Sotah is going to deal with different kind of things, but maybe if we need to give a topic, it's about relationship. And one of the most famous sentences about relationship, about bringing two people together, is that it is as hard as Kriyat Yam Suf to make a shidduch. So let me share the sources I brought to you, and let me also say that we're going to really touch it, just touch the beginning of the idea of Chazal's talking about Kriyat Yam Suf, the splitting of the sea as a whole. And we're going to focus on, is it difficult, about the word difficult. Is it real? What is so difficult? So there is by the way, a painting from a very famous, it is one of the most ancient shuls in Dora Europos. It's in the area of between Syria and Turkey today, and it's from the 3rd century. It's one of the most beautiful ancient shuls that we found. The walls were covered with pictures from stories of Tanakh, and so this is Yetziat Mitzrayim. So let us read how Sotah talks about making shidduchs, and it's in Sotah page 2. Rabbi Bar Chana says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, and it is as difficult to match a couple together as was the splitting of the Red Sea, as it is stated in a verse that speaks of the Exodus from Egypt in Psalms. God makes the solitary individuals dwell in a house. He brings out prisoners into prosperity. Ken bakosharot. Now, it's a very strange sentence, because what do you mean it's difficult to match a couple as it was difficult to split the sea? Are we saying that splitting the sea was difficult for God? Was it impossible for God to do such a thing? Okay, it doesn't make sense that saying that it was as difficult as splitting the sea means that it was difficult for God to do. But while we are adding the verse from Psalms that Rabbi Yochanan is quoting, maybe it will come more clear, because it says in the pasuk, Elohim Moshiv Yechidim Baita, God takes individuals and he that sits in solitary and he dwells them in a house. In other words, some people, either they find it unnecessary to find a partner, or it's difficult for them to find partners. And God is the only one that is able to bring them together, to dwell in a house, to start a family, to live together. And it's as the other part of the pasuk says, Motzi asirim bakosharot. It's like bringing out prisoners and give them new life. Bakosharot can mean different things. Here, the English translated it in, he brings the prisoners into prosperity. But Rashi indicates something different. Rashi is saying, Kekriat Yam Suf shenishtanu sidrei bereshit. Why are we saying that Kriyat Yam Suf was difficult? The word kashim doesn't mean that it was impossible for God to do, but that God doesn't do it lightly. What doesn't he do lightly? Changing the rules of nature that he put in nature when he created the world. And when God created the world, he put rules of nature's laws of nature, and that's how the words keep on going. But splitting the sea was something against the rules of nature. And when God does it, it's usually only for very important reasons, or for crucial times, or there's no other way to do it. So God changed the rules of Bereshit in order to have Bnei Israel walk through the sea on dry land. And Rashi is saying, Moshiv Yechidim Baita, he puts the individuals together. This is something God does. Rashi is also hinting here that it's not something easy for people to do. When we're trying to make a shidduch, whoever is dealing with shidduchs knows that it's not an easy thing. It's easy for God, and he can do it, but it's very difficult for people. And maybe here we can add that we need a lot of prayer, and we need to act on it, we need to try, not to sit down and say, things will, people will find themselves, but we need to be active. And Rashi adds, and he's saying that God took out the people of Israel in the month that was kasher. He sees the word kosherot as hinting that it was a fine month. It wasn't too cold, it wasn't too hot. The same thing, says Rashi, this is how God does with couples. He knows exactly to put together the people that are not going to be too cold or too hot, or too difficult to each other. But Rashi tells us that when Rabbi Yochanan is saying kashin lezavgan kriat yamsuf, it's not difficult for God. It's difficult for us, and it's difficult to find a shidduch. And kriat yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, wasn't difficult in the eyes of God or to God to do, but he didn't take it lightly. When God decides to change the rules of nature as he put them in Genesis, it means that there's something serious going on here. And we see the same thing happening when Moshe Rabbeinu, when in Sefer Dvarim, when Moshe and the Torah describe the Yetziat Mitzrayim, Exodus, it says, ולכל היד החזקה ולכל המורא הגדול אשר עשה משה לעיני כל ישראל. And for all the great might and awesome power that Moses displayed before all Israel. And the different things that Moses did, there were the Eser HaMakot, the 10 plagues, and there was the splitting of the sea, and other things. But here the Midrash is asking, what is the different, what is Kol HaMorah HaGadol, the great, the awesome power? And the Midrash Tanaim to the book of Dvarim is saying, Hamorah Gadol is the splitting of the sea. Lemorah Gadol zo kriat yamsuf. Now the word morah in Hebrew, mem, vav, reish, aleph, can either come from the word ra'ah, reish, aleph, he means saw. In other words, the awesome thing that the people of Israel saw, and that was the splitting of the sea. But morah can also come from the verb yara, to fear. In other words, it was really something unbelievable and great that showed them the awesomeness of God. And that was Kriat Yamsuf. In other words, Kriat Yamsuf was not just a step on the way from slavery to redemption, from being slaves to standing in front of Har Sinai and accepting the Torah. It was a crucial thing. There was something about the splitting of the sea that showed an aspect of God that not in every generation we're going to see that. And the people of Israel living Mitzrayim saw that. And it was so great in the eyes of God to do that Rabbi Yochanan is saying to get two people together is important, is serious, is crucial, that we will try to do it, everything we can for that. The other pasuk in the Bible, in Tanakh, that Chazal are talking about Kriat Yamsuf is a beautiful verse in the book of in Chronicles 1, in Divrei Hayamim. And there's a description of the and praising God. And they're using different description. It says, Lecha Hashem hagdula ve'hagvura, yours, Lord, are the greatness, might, splendor, triumph, and majesty. Yes, all that is in heaven and on earth. To you, O Lord, belong kingship and preeminence above all. Okay, so these are big words describing the greatness of God. And the beauty of the Midrash is taking, the Midrash in Masechet Brachot is taking this pasuk and breaks it to parts and saying, it was taught in a Baraita in the name of Rabbi Akiva. Yours, O Lord, is the greatness. This is the splitting of the Red Sea. For Rabbi Akiva to split the Red Sea by God was one of God's greatness. Lecha Hashem hagdula, the greatness of God is splitting of the sea. The power is the plague of the firstborn. The glory, this is the giving of the Torah. The triumph is Jerusalem, and the majesty, this is the temple. Now, Rabbi Akiva is telling us that the beginning of all the description of the greatness of God in the verse in Chronicles, the Gdula, is the splitting of the sea. And again, we go back to the idea of Rabbi Yochanan saying that putting a matchmaking two individuals is as difficult as the splitting of the sea. It's not that it's difficult, impossible for God. It's one of God's greatness on earth. And for us, it might be difficult, but we need to try. We have to try to do as God did in doing something impossible, not splitting, but bringing two people together. And maybe this is also why, the idea of Kriyat Yam Suf is one of the greatness of God, that he changed, the laws of Genesis for Kriyat Yam Suf, for the splitting of the sea to happen. In the Yerushalmi of Brachot, we have stated, he who recites Shema in the morning must mention the Exodus in Emet V'Yatziv. And Rebbe says he must mention God's kingdom, and others say he has to mention the splitting of the Red Sea and the slaying of the firstborn. And Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says he has to mention all of these and has to say Rock of Israel and its Redeemer. And Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi is telling us in Shema every morning, we not only need to mention Exodus and mention God's glory and kingdom, but we also have to mention the splitting of the sea. And the splitting of the sea is part of an everyday reciting, that we remember that God changed nature for us to leave Egypt, and remembering what he did for us, remembering that he took it seriously, that we need to, there's a sea, and we're changing nature, and the people of Israel are moving in the sea on dry land. If he did that for us, the little that we can do is, he took seriously Kriyat Yam Suf. The little that we can do is take seriously two people that haven't, found themselves yet, and help them come together and create a family. So we go back to the words of Rabbi Yochanan, Kashin lezavgan kekriat Yam Suf. It is as difficult to match a couple together as was the splitting of the Red Sea. The difficulty is for us. For God, it wasn't difficult. It was serious. It was a serious thing for him. If we take seriously the idea that people are sitting alone, and it's more than a mitzvah, it's adding to creation to help people find their partner. If we remember how serious it was for God, maybe it will give us more strength and motivation to help people come together. Thank you.